Hello everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel Mr. Football Loons, and today I'm doing Game Week 27 predictions of the Premier League. And they're going to be starting off on the 2nd of March. It's at St James's Park. It's Newcastle United versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. Our Newcastle United, the last few games at home, Newcastle United have drew a few, and Wolves, they're looking sensational in recent time. Newcastle's unbeaten run has ended after a 4-1 loss against Arsenal, but I think Newcastle can go past that game. Doesn't matter that they didn't play well in that game because Arsenal are battering loads of clubs in the Premier League, so we can just skip past that. Going against Wolves, Newcastle are at home here. I don't see Newcastle United losing it at home, but I could see a draw because Wolves are looking way too good, and I feel like considering Newcastle isn't properly back to where they were from last season, I feel like this is going to turn out to be a draw, as the last few games at St James's Park has been a draw. Overall, I feel like both teams cancel each other out in very similar positions in the table, so I'm going to go for a draw, and at the final whistle, I'm going to say it's going to finish 1-1 between the two sides. Moving on to the next game, it's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's Tottenham Hotspur versus Crystal Palace, a London derby here, and Tottenham Hotspur, well, they've had a bit of a 2-week holiday. They've had a 2-week break from games, and they're all well rested up, and they're facing a Crystal Palace side which has a new manager, Oliver Glanzer, and they're a bit on a manager bounce, you know. Crystal Palace, they're on a manager bounce. They just won at 3-0 against Burnley. It wasn't just a simple 3-0, it was an absolute battering of a 3-0. Burnley only had 2 shots, 0 on target, when Crystal Palace had way more, I think like 15 shots or something like that. Absolute domination. Eze could return for this game. If he does, then what I'm about to say could back me up here. I am actually not going to go for a Spuds win. I'm not saying Spuds to win this. I know it's absolutely bizarre, but I feel like I think the reason why I'm going for a draw is mostly to feeling. For some reason, in the back of my head, I've got like Crystal Palace will at least get a point here. And also a bit of logic because Crystal Palace do obviously have their new manager, Oliver Glanzer. They just won at 3-0. And I feel like Crystal Palace with a manager bounce, and because I've got a feeling in the back of my head, and because Spuds haven't properly been, consistent, they've been winning, drawing, and then the recent loss to Wolves, I'm actually going to go for a draw. I know it's shocking, but I'm going to go for a 2-all high-scoring draw come the final whistle. Moving on to the next game is at the City Ground. It's Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool. And while Liverpool are champions of the Carabao Cup, they won it just about against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final. Very good by Liverpool. 1 trophy in the bag. Can they win the Premier League? They could win the quadruple. They could win the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Premier League, and Europa League if they wanted to. But they're facing Nottingham Forest, which have looked pretty decent. They lost the last game 4-2 against Aston Villa. It was Aston Villa. Even home against Liverpool, I feel like they do not have a chance. Even with Liverpool having loads of injuries, Liverpool still look really good. And I'm obviously going to go for Liverpool. They're overall better quality than Nottingham Forest. So I'm going to go for Liverpool. Pretty decently comfortable. I'm going to go 3-1 to the away side, Liverpool. Moving on to the next games at the GTEC Stadium. It's Brentford versus Chelsea. It's the West London derby. Now, Brentford, the last 3 games, I believe, they have lost them all, unfortunately. Brentford, you know what? I still feel like they've shown some good signs in recent time. Ivan Toney obviously returning. He has bagged in a few goals. And the striker partnership of Neil Maupay and Ivan Toney are looking very good. Neil Maupay managed to get a goal against West Ham United, but obviously they did lose against a very bad form West Ham United, 4-2. Wasn't fantastic, and they're in 16th. I mean, it feels like they should be higher up the table, especially what we saw of last season. But Brentford are facing Chelsea, which got into the final of the Carabao Cup, but lost it only just about. They gave an absolute great effort, Chelsea. And you know what? Chelsea have looked alright in recent time. They managed to get a 1-1 draw against Manchester City and a 3-1 win against Crystal Palace. I feel like Chelsea, they're inconsistent. I could easily see a draw or a win for Brentford and a win for Chelsea. I really do not know. But I'm going to back up Chelsea as they have been in better form. And overall, I feel like Chelsea is a better side than Brentford at the moment. So I'm only going to go just about. I'm going to do 2-1 to Chelsea, but I wouldn't be surprised for a draw or a win for Brentford. Moving on to the next game, at Goodison Park, it's Everton versus West Ham United. And while Everton seems to be drawing, loads of draws, they obviously struggle to score. And Branthwaite's looking fantastic. His defensive ability is fantastic. How he blocks, how he defends is superb. Branthwaite's looking really good and scored an absolute cracking goal to top off a great display against Brighton when they draw at 1-1. But they're not getting the wins, Everton. They're getting draws, they're getting good defensive performances, but that's about it. It's going to be low scoring in this one, and they're facing West Ham United, which everyone did not like David Moyes as the manager. They wanted him to get sacked. I said in the last video that you should trust in him. David Moyes is the man for the rest of the season. He should stay for the job, and he'll do a good enough job to get West Ham United a good top 10 finish. And, well, guess what happened? They won West Ham United. I know I said a draw, but I said that David Moyes is good enough for a manager. They won the last game. It stops the drought for West Ham United. Coming into this game, I don't think West Ham will win again, but I don't think they'll lose. Honestly, I cannot split the sides. Everton drawing. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to sit on the fence, and I'm going to say 1-1 come the final whistle. Moving on to the next game is at Craven Cottage. It's Fulham versus Brighton and Hove Albion. And well, Fulham looked really good in the Manchester United win. They won at 2-1 in the last game. And can I say, they thoroughly deserved that game. Absolutely fantastic. They played fantastically, even without Palkina in that game. Fulham, they're home here. They're facing Brighton, which, like I say, they play some great football. De Zerbi's got them playing some fantastic football. And, well, Brighton, you know what? Sometimes Brighton could win 5-1, 4-1, 3-1, and sometimes they could lose at 3-1. Sometimes it could be... I really don't know who's going to win this game. A bit like the Chelsea-Brentford game earlier on. It's quite hard to predict because Fulham, they played fantastic, but there's also times where they went on like a winning streak and then straight away a losing streak. So it's going to be very hard to determine. The easy option would say a draw because I don't know who's going to win, but I feel like Brighton has better quality overall. So on the base of quality, I'm going to say Brighton to win this game, and I'm not going to go for a simple 2-1. I'm going to go 3-1 to Brighton. Moving on to the next game, it's at the mighty Kenilworth Road. It's Luton Town versus Aston Villa. And can I say, this is going to be a high-scoring game. Luton Town have been scoring loads of goals. They've also been conceding quite a few in recent time. And it's going to be high-scoring. I feel like it's going to be close. It's never easy going to Kenilworth Road. And out of the 3 promoted teams, Luton Town look the best in my opinion. They have the most fight, they play the best football, and they create the most chances as well. So there's going to be loads of chances for both sides, but obviously I am going to edge to Aston Villa just about, because Aston Villa obviously are higher up the table, and they won the last game 4-2 against Nottingham Forest. Leon Bailey, absolutely sensational. His dribbling is immaculate. It's amazing. He's starting to go on the form like he was at Leverkusen. It's fantastic. I am going to go Aston Villa, only just about, because it is quite hard to go to Kenilworth Road. So I'm only going to go just about, and I'm going to go 3-2 to the Wayside Aston Villa. Moving on to the next game, it's a whole new day. It's the 3rd of March. It's at Turf Moor. It's Burnley versus AFC Bournemouth. And well, Burnley. They got battered 3-0 against Crystal Palace. Obviously, Josh Brownhill getting the sending off. Know him, he's their captain. Know him coming in against AFC Bournemouth. And AFC Bournemouth, yes, they lost it 1-0 against Manchester City. And it was only 1-0, you know, that was quite tight. And they looked very good against Manchester City. And logically, you would go for Bournemouth to win this 2-3-0 in this game. Logically, you would. But for some reason, I'm an absolute mug. This is a mug right here. And I'm actually going to go for a Burnley win. Again, it's a bit like the Crystal Palace Spuds game. There's something in the back of the mind that's saying Burnley are going to win this. Despite Burnley playing absolutely crap, I am going to go for Burnley. They're at home and they're desperate for points. You know, I think this is going to be the last time that I back Burnley to get any points in recent time this season, because each time I say they do, they just go and lose and really disappoint me. Because at the start of the season, I said Burnley were going to finish in 12th. I'm going to say Burnley, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised for an absolute battering to Bournemouth. But I'm going to go 1-0 to Burnley come the final whistle. Moving on to the next game, and this is probably the biggest game of the game week. It's the mighty Manchester derby, and it's hosted at the Etihad Stadium. It's obviously Manchester City versus Manchester United. Obviously, Manchester United, they missed Hojlund in the last game for Fulham. The amount of runs that he would have given in that Fulham game, the amount of great runs he would have given, the amount of hold-up plays he would have done, and he probably would have changed the game against Fulham. They probably either would have got a draw or win if Hojlund was there. And I believe he's still injured coming into this game. And if Manchester United can't win it at home against Fulham, then I don't see them winning against City. I'm not going to go for any upset here. I am going to go for Manchester City. Maybe if Hojlund was here, maybe I might say a draw. But But I am going to go Manchester City winners, only just about, because Man City have been quite close in their scorelines in recent time. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Manchester City come the final whistle. Moving on to the next game, it's a whole new day. It's the 4th of March. It's at Bramall Lane. It's Sheffield United versus Arsenal. And while Arsenal have been battering teams in recent time, they won 4-1 against Newcastle United. They've won 5-0 against Crystal Palace. They've won 5-0 against Burnley. They've won 6-0 against West Ham United. And they've beaten first place Liverpool at the moment, 3-1. And earlier in the season, they also beat Manchester City. Arsenal, they are battering teams at the moment. And considering Sheffield United has been battered against a lot of teams in recent time, yeah, I'm definitely going to say Arsenal by a big scoreline. I know Sheffield United only lost at 1-0 against Wolves, but overall Sheffield United have these close results, and they also have the massive margins, and they're inconsistent on whether it's going to be a close result or a massive margin. And it's never a good sign when two players on the same team are arguing and kind of fighting. They kind of went into each other. You've probably seen it. But that is not good for Sheffield United. It backs up me even more saying Arsenal's going to win this. It's going to be an absolute battering, and I am going 6-0 to Arsenal come the final whistle. And well, who is my goal of Game Week 26? Well, I'm going to pick a West Ham United player in the 4-2 win against Brentford, and it's going to be Emerson's goal just outside the box, an absolute rocket of a goal to the top right. It was fantastic, and that is my goal of Game Week 26. But how did I do in Game Week 26, where I got 8 points out of the possible 20 points, and I am counting the Man City Brentford prediction, which I did predict on my community post. Overall, I did get one exact result right. I got Everton versus Brighton to draw at 1-1, absolutely correct. And the rest, I got whether they'll win, draw or lose, correct 7 times. But that puts me on overall points of 157 points out of 516 points. Hopefully I've enjoyed the video, and if you like football, you probably like FC 24, so why not check out my FC 24 series. There's around 11 episodes on there. Check it out. Come on, clickety click. Be pretty cool. Toodle pip.